Welcome to solverfy.
This problem says trace metals in drinking water affect the flavor, and an unusually high concentration can pose a hazard or a health hazard. 10 pairs of data were taken measuring zinc concentration in bottom water and surface water and presented in table 2. Does the data suggest that the true average concentration in the bottom water exceeds that of the surface water? And here we were actually given 5 pairs of data, so we'll look at answering the question for our 5 pairs. And here what we would do is want to know if our mean difference would be greater than 0 to show that the average concentration in the bottom water exceeds that of the surface water. So that means that our null hypothesis would be that the mean difference would be equal to 0, and our mean difference for the alternative would be greater than 0 to show that it is exceeding the surface water. So first we would come up with a list where we are subtracting bottom minus the surface, which would give us a list of the differences of 0.015, 0.028, 0.177, 0.121, and then lastly 0.102. And once we have our list of differences, what we can do is enter in that list as a list 1 or L1 in our calculator. And once we have that list entered, we can run a t-test off of that list. And for the t-test, we have to list several values, starting with the null mean, which in our case would be 0. And then we list the list 1 that we've entered, and we listed our list 1 as L1, or named our list 1 L1. And then we have to list the frequency of list 1, which would also be 1. And then the last thing we have to list is the alternate hypothesis. And in our case, that is that our mean would be greater than the null mean, which would be 0. And once we run the t-test, we'll get our p-value. And the p-value we get comes out to 0.0211. And we weren't given a level of significance to compare to, but a standard level of significance would be 0.05. And when we compare our p-value to the level of significance, our p-value is less than the level of significance. And if that's the case, when our p-value is less than the level of significance, that means that we have evidence to reject the null hypothesis. And here, if we have evidence to reject the null, that means we can support or conclude that the average concentration in the bottom water does exceed that of the surface water.